I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. The Supreme Court is allowing Virginia to move forward with removal of 1,600 alleged non-citizens from the state's voter rolls. A request from state officials was granted by the High Court to pause a lower court ruling that blocked Virginia from moving forward with its removal program that started in August. The White House says President Biden will attend the next presidential inauguration no matter who wins. During Wednesday's press briefing, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the president, quote, believes in the peaceful transfer of power, end quote. New details are coming to light regarding the arsons that damaged hundreds of ballots at 3 drop boxes in Washington state and Oregon this week. The New York Times is reporting the incendiary devices used to attack the ballot boxes on Monday all had the phrases, quote, Free Gaza or Free Palestine written on them. And the LA Dodgers will be celebrating their World Series victory over the New York Yankees with a parade today. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning and welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Morning.
It is Friday. Wake up. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and my co-host this morning is none other than former Senator Wesley Bishop. Say hey to the people, Wesley.
Good morning, New Orleans. Wake up, rise and shine.
And you know super producer Nyron is back there always
holding
doing
it down,
his thing.
holding
Couldn't
it
do
down.
Couldn't do without him. Shout out to Nyron. But listen, y'all, it's Friday. There's a lot going on today, a whole lot going on today, but thank God we made it to Friday. We are 4 days away from election night. And the closer we get, the more dangerous the rhetoric seems to
Craziness, Doc.
We are referring to the former president of these United States and the current contender for the White House. He's unleashing violent rhetoric. He said that Liz Cheney should be fired up on. Like, I mean, as dangerous as that sounds, I am not shocked. Are you?
I am not shocked. For our listening audience who may or may not be familiar with Liz Cheney is a former congressperson from the state of Wyoming. She was the number 3 person in the Republican Party, and more so than that, her father is the former vice president, Dick Cheney. She came out early and endorsed Kamala Harris and has been one of her chief surrogates around the country. And it seems like every time she says something and talks about how Kamala Harris would be the best president for this country, there is some comment or remark by the former president of the United States. And what Doc is talking about on yesterday, he actually makes a comment that basically she should be placed before a firing squad and executed for her comments of being anti-Trump and anti-American.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit further and say that I believe he thinks that about anyone who opposes him. I think should he earn the vote of the American people, his entire presidency will be built around vengeance.
I agree.
And I, you know, it's a scary thought to have that in a country that is based in democracy, that you can't even do your democratic civic duty and vote for whom you want to vote for without there being some sense of retaliation, which is why Jeff Bezos and the guy that runs the other newspaper, I can't think of his name at the moment, but I believe he's an Asian person. They have been endorsing candidates for a number of years at the Washington Post and magazines and newspapers and things of that nature. But he's threatened them in such a way that now Jeff Bezos has said that he won't endorse anybody, even though the magazine or the publication was set to endorse Kamala Harris.
Correct.
It was so bad that his chief editor, I believe that was his role, he was the top guy at the publication. He stepped down because he could not believe that they were allowing the former president to have so much power and authority over the freedom of the press. And that is scary. So not only does he want to kill people who oppose him, because if you want somebody to stand in front of a firing squad, you want them dead.
Absolutely.
Not only do you want to kill people He called out war hawk at that.
He did.
He called out war hawk. Not only do you want to kill people, not only do you want to put the rhetoric out there that the race is yours, you have essentially won this race, and if the outcome is anything other than you winning, then you're screaming that it's fraud. So you're also inciting your base to do what they did when you lost the last election.
Well, Doc, let me jump in just for a second. I've been watching that situation, and we always talk about actions having consequences. Well, as a result of Jeff Bezos making that decision, the Washington Post is now down, and 200,000 people have taken away their subscription to the actual newspaper. So, I mean, you're talking about actual money actually being lost through that, and like we say, action has consequences.
Wesley, I don't think 200 people unsubscribing, 200,000 people unsubscribing to the Washington Post will really matter to him in the grand scheme of things, because we are talking about, I think he's the richest man in this country. And I also believe that what he's weighing it up against is the probability or the possibility that should this man get into the White House, it will be a lot more of a financial hit than 200,000 people unsubscribing to the Washington Post. I mean, he could literally give up the publication and he'll probably still be the richest man in the country. I don't know.
And I agree with you.
I don't know.
The reason why I mentioned that is to equate the 200,000 people with 200,000 voters.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, when you are that wealthy, which is why wealthy folk don't have any real buy-in into this presidency, and because they're not concerned that they've been the most wealthy have always felt protected because they've gotten the most breaks in this country since the inception of this country. That's how this country was founded: capitalism and pillage things from marginalized communities. And so I don't think he looks at it as anything other than this risk reward idea of it will hurt me more if I allow my publication to endorse her than it would to you get what I'm saying?
I got it.
So 200,000 subscribers will hurt us. You know what I mean? It would probably bankrupt us, but I just don't know if he feels the immediate impact of that because he's so wealthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
true.
a local paper probably will fold if something like that happened, or a local publication, or somebody with not as much wealth as him. But I think that is what this election is about: forcing the wealthiest of the wealthy to pay their fair share. And I think that's what they're afraid of. If you get a president that understands how to really stabilize this economy and stabilize this country, it would mean taxing them the right way. And I think that's why all of the hyper wealthy people want him in office, because they know that their interest is also his interest, which is to protect their wealth. We already have a caller, but I try to tell you that WBOK listening audience is on it. But I don't know, y'all. What do you think? Like, do you think the closer we get, we're 4 days away, what more can he do or say to make you know, without a shadow of a doubt, what he's going to do should he earn the vote of the American people? We have a caller on line 1, and we'll get your thought on that, Senator Bishop. Good morning, Reverend Wallace. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Look, and to the listeners,
Reverend, good morning.
You're right. You're 100% right. Listen to me. The fact that he got even talking about purging 200,000 people from the news, who gives a shit? Because let me tell you what.
Go ahead, tell us.
Come on, Reverend.
Are you there?
We have lost him.
I think we might. Did we get him back? Well, listen, I really want to get you back and get what your thoughts are. But if you have thoughts on this topic, do you believe that the closer we get to the election, the more dangerous the rhetoric is going to get? Do you believe that this former president can say or do anything that is going to turn off this insidious? It's dangerous. I believe it's dangerous, and I believe somebody in the GOP, somebody ought to step up and refute the things that he's saying, and the vitriol at which he's using to say it is scary. And if nobody condemns it, it's going to only perpetuate itself and get worse as we get closer to election night.
Doc, what I think is so unfortunate, I think when you take a look at it, I think you do have some people who normally would not have stepped up, who are traditional Republicans, who have traditionally cast their vote for a Republican candidate, who are actually coming out and saying this man just isn't fit to be president of the United States. 2 days ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger, lifelong Republican governor of California, came out and said he's not going to be supporting him, along with a lot of other individuals. But I think for a lot of people, I think the die is already cast. Either you like him or you don't. I don't think there's anything that he can say, no matter how vitriol, how crazy it is, that's going to stop you from actually voting for them. Whereby I think you have a lot of individuals who have decided that they would never vote for him again. So I think the die is cast one way or the other. And to step on your point for just a second, that I think it is, in fact, the next 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday, we're going to see, I think, more statements being said by he as well as both his surrogates going on. When we take a look at all of these different states, it seems like a lot of the conversations that are going on are setting up for a close election to whereby he loses. And then we have a situation whereby we have electors, particularly in those 7 battleground states, coming in and saying that, well, this may be an issue, this might be an issue, lawsuits all over the country. So I think it's going to be sometime after Tuesday when we actually get a chance to see exactly what's going on, similar to how we've seen in the past.
Well, listen, this is a topic that I would love for our listening audience to weigh in on. The number here is 504-582-9422. We have Reverend Wallace back on line 1. Good morning, Reverend. Welcome back.
Reverend, you there?
Is he there? We lost him again. Well, listen, if you want to weigh in on this, give us a call, 504-582-9422. We have a call on line 3. Ange, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Oh, we lost her too? Listen.
Yo, come on back.
It's okay. It's okay. Listen, things happen. Everybody's eager to talk to us. The number here is 504-582-9422. We are having a conversation about the rhetoric, the tone in the rhetoric, the vitriol in the rhetoric. It's getting to be at a level that is almost, I feel like it indicts us as an entire country that we're allowing this to take place on our airwaves, in the media, and there's not really been any pushback or blowback from the GOP to say this is insane. You know, because if you want the vote of the American people, you have to realize that should you win the White House, you don't just represent your base. You represent every person in this country. And if that's exactly how you feel about the other folk who don't vote for you, then how can you be a leader that stands for all people? It says with liberty and justice for all, not just for the people who voted for you. So how do you reconcile that? How do you work through that? How do we believe you to set that sort of energy aside so should you win the White House? I think that's the scariest part of it. And then to have people who come from marginalized communities, people who look like you and I, people who are people of color or people from these nations that they're disparaging, these communities that they're disparaging, then what about us? What about them should you win the White House? How do you install confidence in us? I just don't know that that's even possible. I don't know how you can then become a president for the people with the kind of things you're saying leading up to election day.
Doc, one of the things that really just boggles me and really gets under my skin is the fact that what Trump is saying isn't something that he's just newly saying. He's been saying craziness like this for years and years and years. But what's so unfortunate about it is that, as is being said now, you see a lot of individuals, particularly folks who are in positions within the Republican Party, making excuses for him. Well, he really didn't mean that. Although he said he was going to do that, he didn't mean what he was actually saying. And then for those other individuals, you know, I saw J.D. Vance on TV the other day after they unveiled the comment that was made by the comedian. And so he was like, well, I didn't hear it. I don't know if it was really said, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. But the very last thing that he said was that, well, you know what, in this country, we got to get over it. We make much of so little things and this, that, and the other. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Well, that's what Maya Angelou said.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we do have a call on line 3, and this time, let's get it right, y'all. Good morning, Pop Jones. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Hello, are you there?
Yeah. I think I'm an old person. I've been on this planet a long time. But I think we in serious since slavery and Civil War. I don't think that America have faced these people are insane. And then Doctor and Senator, what I'm trying to understand is just not them, I'm looking at some of the people that's voting for these people. I'll give you one example, like the people that's over on the I'm trying to think now. I'm having a senior moment. The Americans that's over Hispanics that he threw toilet paper over when it was having a storm.
I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. And these people, that's the people I don't understand. People that he called all kind of names other than human beings, they're still voting for him. That's the part I'm having I don't understand. But look like we are in more serious times than slavery and the Civil War. These people not going to take a loss. No, they're not going to take a loss. If they lose, we in serious times, and that's all I can see at this present time. That they're not going to take a loss. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm looking at this as a spiritual warfare here with these people because they're not going to take a loss. And he said that he's not going. He said it himself. Now tell me, do you believe just what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do believe what you're saying. I think that's the scariest part about why I wanted to talk about this conversation this morning is because if you can talk about executing the daughter of
Sitting vice president.
yeah, how do you allow him to say those things and it goes unchecked. Nobody says anything. So if that is how you feel about her and you can so openly and boldly profess that, then you have to understand that he is speaking to a subsection of people that would not mind carrying that mission out for him. And that's the scariest part. He's going to activate folk to do his bidding just by the things he's saying. Because some of those folk believe he's talking directly to them. And that's the scary part. It is going to be very, very scary to see what happens in the wake of election night.
And they're gullible enough to believe it and carry it out.
Yes, they are. So we're with you. We're going to take another caller on line one. We have Miss Jones. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning to everybody. Wake up. He is truly dangerous. You got to look at these Russians who have had citizenships and these Latinos or these people who are all for him, and he's cursing them out in every way, form, and fashion. Some of those countries are communist countries, South America. And I think after World War II, Hitler, and they say he escaped and got there, and people ran that way, so it's built up on that. And they don't like Americans anyhow. And they're part of the scheme to destroy and take over. Trump, they use somebody who's vicious, hungry for power and what have you, but he's being used up too, and he's scared. We've never had as many Russians that I could recall becoming citizens here. Back in, I think, the 70s or the 80s, the daughter of the former Russian leader came here and married a white American. I think it was the 80s. First name is Svetlana. I might be mispronouncing it. It's all been plotted and brewing. And as far as these rich people who own newspapers, they're going to go too. They're going to go down too. They're all being used. So look like there's a fear if you don't say something. They're public people, but there's a fear. And Donald Trump, like I say, he's just a dumb bunny sitting up there. They've poisoned his mind. They've given him, this is where the chemical warfare comes in, mind control, mind altering. A whole lot of people have drunk more than Jim Jones tea, I'll put it that way, so that they could react and do the way they're doing, because as prejudiced and as harsh as they've been to us here, dragging our people here, this is going to be the same thing and worse for everybody, every American, white American too, and they haven't taught them civics, like you say, Dr. White. They haven't taught civics or American history in a high school. So you have 30 years of people that don't even have a clue, an idea, and that's probably why they got to the point where they don't vote, they're not interested, or my vote doesn't count. They've been brainwashed the wrong way. But I say to this, the Ku Klux Klan, you haven't seen anything yet if you think you're bad. You need to turn around and not, if you don't like Kamala, the only thing you have is a thing you call Trump. And you'll be in holy hell.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Jones. We appreciate your call. We have to go to break, but I definitely want to continue this conversation because it's a really important conversation. But after the break, we're going to talk to Angela Beddoe of ANCC and the Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University School of Nursing, Sandra C. Brown. So stay with us after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Stay with us.
Hey, this is Dave Poston. Be sure to listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday evening at 5 p.m., bringing you the best Southern Soul barroom music with the Southern Soul Weekend Party Mix, hosted by me, of course. I'll be playing your favorite Southern Soul music by artists from all over the South, right here on WBOK 1230 AM or online at WBOK1230.com. The station you listen to longer. Listen to longer. Listen to longer.
Hey everybody, it's Gregor and Brian Banks from the front porch here on WBOK 1230 AM, the station you listen to all day long. Just want to take a moment to remind y'all that this election cycle is vitally important in addition to being very historic. What's on the ballot is not Democrat against Republican. It is freedom versus tyranny. If you want to go and continue this democratic experiment that we have enjoyed in this country over the past 200 plus years, go out and use your right to vote for democracy, to vote for freedom, to vote for our future, your future, and your children's future. It's important. Thank you for your time. Y'all be cool. Peace.
For everything you need to know, go to GoVote.com. That's GEAUX Vote.com.
NOLA Public Schools is excited to be on this 2024-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars. Attend today, achieve tomorrow.
New Orleans Burlesque is back. The Red Light District, located on the second floor of your New Orleans headquarters by Nice Guys, presents a captivating, international award-winning burlesque experience that will leave you breathless. Indulge in the sounds of our Grammy Award-winning quartet and exceptional food pairings each and every Saturday. To purchase tickets, visit Eventbrite.com, and remember, what happens in the Red Light District stays in the Red Light District.
People's Health has a new Medicare plan designed for people with diabetes, chronic heart failure, or cardiovascular disorders. It features a monthly over-the-counter allowance, lower costs for a number of prescriptions, and lower specialist copays than non-special needs plans from People's Health. To learn more about a chronic special needs plan, call 1-844-663-2135. Plans are insured through United Healthcare Insurance Company or one of its affiliated companies, a Medicare Advantage organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in the plan depends on the plan's contract renewal with Medicare.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank. There's freedom here.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. My co-host in studio this morning is none other than former Senator Wesley Bishop. Say hey, Wesley.
Good morning, everybody.
And behind the glass is Naira holding us all together. We were having a very in-depth conversation about the rhetoric that is happening leading up to the election, and we want to absolutely continue that conversation, but we have to pivot for a second because our guest right now are Angela Beddoe, the CEO of the American Nursing Association, along with Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University School of Nursing, Sandra C. Brown. Let's welcome both ladies to the Good Morning Show. Good morning,
Good morning, ladies.
How are you?
Good morning.
How are you? Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And so I don't know if you guys were listening in on our previous conversation, but we were talking about the rhetoric that is getting more and more dangerous the closer we get to election days. So that's what we were talking about. But I've informed the listening audience that we have to pivot because we're talking about something almost equally as important in the American Nurses Foundation grant and the need to attract more men into nursing. That is the topic of discussion this morning. And so we want to welcome you. How y'all doing this morning?
We're doing great. This is Angela, and I'm doing Angela Beddoe from ANA, and I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be in this beautiful city of New Orleans, and we have our ANCC conference here this week, and that's where I had the pleasure to sit on a panel with Dr. Sandra Brown.
Well, welcome to the city. I hope it's treating you well.
It is.
So we in studio with me is former Senator Wesley Bishop, and he is a black man, and we need to talk to him about the importance of attracting these men to this profession, and maybe we can help initiate that for you here in the city. I think there's a need for black males in the workforce in total because we definitely want black men in the teaching profession. So you're also trying to attract black men or males into the nursing profession as a whole. So what is the importance of that?
Yeah, well, absolutely, and we have first of all, let's really break it down for what the statistics mean. We have 5 million registered nurses in the U.S., and about 6.8% of them are nurses of color. 1% of them are black male nurses. And at the American Nurses Association, we have a commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we really want to back it up by the grants that we're giving that can create impact in those areas. And so when we look at that, we had a grant, a research grant proposal, request for proposals that we put out for diversifying nursing research through support of minority institutions. And that means we wanted to give to those HBCUs that were doing, that had nursing programs. And Dr. Brown and her fantastic Southern University had a proposal that was just exceptional. And their winning proposal was workplace racism, perceived stress, and health-promoting lifestyle behaviors among African-American registered nurses. What that turned out to be when we granted them $339,000, and we were happy to see the cohort of 33 black male nurses. And that's just sorely needed in our communities, our underserved communities, to have healthcare providers that look like them is important for health equity and healthcare outcomes. So we were happy to award this grant. And Dr. Brown, I don't know if you want to say some more about that.
Yes, we are so appreciative to ANA for that grant, and that investment in our university and in our students will just go far and wide. Just to tell you a little bit about Southern University, and I'm calling in from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We are the largest producer of African-American nurses in the state of Louisiana, and we're one of the largest in the United States. We have an undergraduate program, we have a master's program, and we have 2 doctoral programs. If there was no Southern University, we would have far few clinicians of color to serve the people we're called to serve. And as Angela stated, you get much better outcomes if you have a healthcare provider that looks like you, that can relate to you. So with these men who have come into our School of Nursing, this is the largest number that we've had. They've come from all over the United States, California, Detroit, Texas, Illinois, Tennessee, and right here from Baton Rouge and New Orleans and surrounding areas.
Dr.
And
Brown, let me jump in for just a second. I'm a proud graduate of Southern University. I'm a former student body president of Southern University at New Orleans. And when you talk about your nursing program, I know that you for many years you had a nursing program on your Baton Rouge campus, but it's also my understanding that you have a relatively new program on your New Orleans campus. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we have Southern University as part of a system. We're the only HBCU system in the United States. And so we have a nursing program up in Shreveport, on our Shreveport campus, and we just started one on our Suno campus in the New Orleans area. So we cover the full landscape of the state of Louisiana.
Right. Talk a little bit about, as far as health equity is concerned, in what ways does increasing the number of male nurses contribute to health equity and improve health outcomes for diverse patient populations?
Well, as you all know, and we tell this story all the time, Louisiana is first at being last. We are 50th in our health rankings as the least healthiest state in the United States. And there are certain zip code areas in the state of Louisiana that is contributing to those poor health rankings simply because individuals don't have access to health care or there aren't enough healthcare providers to give access to those individuals. Diabetes, cancer, and high blood pressure is what is killing us. Louisiana is sick, and it was sick way before COVID. But what COVID did, it shined a bright light on our health rankings. So by producing clinicians of color, our people who are being ravaged by these diseases are most likely to trust the healthcare provider because they see someone that look like them.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. They have trust, empathy, and respect for that healthcare provider. Even with Black maternal health, we have a higher rate of deaths than Black women than white women, 49.8 deaths per 100,000, which is very high. The theory is that if we have more providers of color in our communities, that could help improve those outcomes as well.
Dr. Brown, let me ask you another question. What role does Southern University and the Southern University system play in engaging the local community to promote nursing as a viable career option for men?
Well, I can tell you that our Southern University has provided us with the JAG-mobile. It's a mobile health unit. It's a clinic on wheels. And we go out to all the communities. We've covered over 28 zip codes in 9 different parishes. And we're going out into those communities bringing free health care. We're doing, blood pressure screenings, blood sugar screenings, cancer screenings for prostate cancer and breast cancer. We're talking about diabetes and healthy food. We have the Ag Center joining us, showing individuals how to, cook with healthy foods. We're giving out foods, non-perishable food items to individuals who have food insecurities. So we're taking healthcare to the streets, to the people that need it. And when they see us roll up in that JAG-mobile with our Jaguar colors, Columbia blue and gold, and with our slogan that says the mighty Jags of SU bringing healthcare to you, they come out and they participate in those health screenings.
So what strategies do you believe are most effective in encouraging men to pursue careers in nursing? Because the goal here is to attract more men to the profession. What strategies do you believe are most effective in getting that job done?
Number one is if our students are our biggest recruiter. And so if they have a wonderful learning experience and they leave our institution healthy, happy, and whole, they're going to go out and spread the word. These 33 men that are in our program, we did not do any intentional recruitment. It was specifically word of mouth. It was from alums who had attended it and wanted to send their children here. I think the best strategy is removing barriers, allowing these individuals to be themselves. If you saw all of the postings on Instagram, we reached over 50 million people in our Instagram post. An audience of over 50 million got to see the videos. And you saw those young men just being organic, being themselves. And so I think that's some of the barriers, removing those barriers, allowing them to see nursing as a environment and a career, not just for women, and going out into the high schools, reaching them at that level to say nursing is a viable career, not just for women.
So,
I think it's also important for us to recognize the work that Southern's doing, because only 8.8% of full-time faculty are nurses of color in nursing schools. Dr. Brown has so many PhD prepared faculty there. You don't see that. Less than 10% are deans or directors. Dr. Brown is a testament to overcoming that percentage herself. And less than 1% nurse scientists of color. So it not only starts of attracting these students in, but also making sure that we encourage and have more faculty of color teaching nurses in the schools. And Dr. Brown, Southern University, is exemplar at that.
Let me ask you a question that you both can actually touch on. I think most individuals view nursing as predominantly a female profession. So what are you doing at Southern, specifically within the Southern system, state of Louisiana, and around the country, as well as the American Nursing Association, to attract men to this profession? A few weeks ago, we actually had a men's wellness walk, whereby we had a real big outreach for Black men to get them to come in, to make sure we touched on all of the different illnesses that were actually there. So along those same lines, what are you guys doing to attract young men, maybe men that are already in their profession, to take a new look at nursing as a viable profession?
Well, I will say that this grant that we saw play out with Southern University is probably just the beginning for us. It's really a touchstone for what we would like to do more in our equity and engagement in the communities that across the U.S. So we're going to be looking more at that. We have a real set strategy. We're going to be really one of the key things that we're going to be doing is imagining ANA into 2040. And when we look at 2040, we're going to look at what should the world look like in healthcare. And this is one of the things that the world should look like. We should have more nurses of color, both female and male in there. Because remember, nurses of color, 5 million nurses, it's only 6.8% of those African Americans. So we need to do better just from that perspective, and then also focus on bringing more males into the workforce as well.
So here's my question, and it's a long-term vision question, right? So what is your long-term vision for the nursing workforce in terms of gender diversity, and what role will grants like this one play in achieving that vision?
Well, our long-term role is to not have these kinds of conversations where we're seeing such disparity in the workforce. Long-term goal was to be equitable, to have equitable representation of men, women, and not just men and women of color. We've got to be able to remove those barriers. We have more students applying to nursing schools that are turned away simply because there's not enough space or there's not enough faculty. It's not because they're not qualified. And so those are some things that we definitely have to alleviate to open up more opportunities.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Angela Badeau, the American Nursing Association CEO, and Dr. Sandra C. Brown, Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University. And we're talking and having an in-depth conversation about how do we attract more males to this profession, particularly people of color, to this profession. As it was said earlier, nursing is often looked at as a female-dominated workforce, but we want to do our best to engage and attract men to this profession. So with that in mind, Dr. Brown, can you tell us what challenges do male nurses face in the field, and how can nursing programs better support them?
Stereotypes. They're hearing the narrative that only women go into nursing. And so I think we have to do a better job with educating society as a whole that this is a very open profession. Also, the institutions, this grant that we're going to be exploring racism, it's alive. It's alive and full breathing in a lot of institutions, hospitals. If you look at their executive team, very few of them are nurses of color. So having those real conversations and with funding from ANA to support research in this endeavor, to support grants and scholarship for these students. At Southern, 80% of our students are Pell Grant recipients, which means they come from low-income homes. A lot of them are first-generation college graduates. I'm a first-generation college graduate. So the struggle to financially support their educational journey is real. And so through, funding sources and scholarships, we're able to help, alleviate some of those financial barriers.
Dr. Brown, from your perspective as the Dean of the School of Nursing, how have you seen the nursing landscape change with regards to gender diversity in recent years?
Well, for Southern, we have always stayed true to our mission, and that is to serve the underserved and the overlooked. The students that we accept into our programs more than likely would not get into other institutions. So HBCUs are a safe haven. It's a place where students come, they feel belonged. We have success coaches. We have faculty who are dedicated to just teaching our students how to learn. When COVID hit 4 years ago, learning stopped. So this is this group that graduated from high school in 2020. They're now at the 2024 mark. We had to do a lot of catching up with them on math and sciences. We call them unfinished learners. And so we have to have a certain dedicated faculty who know how to teach disadvantaged students and who can catch those students up to speed with those unfinished learning. And they do it remarkably well.
So before we have to let you ladies go, because this is a conversation that I absolutely want to continue having with you, but isn't there a conference coming up that you want our listening audience to know about? Can you give us some insight in terms of that event?
I think we are. It probably was something that we already did. We sat
so we missed
on a
it.
panel. Yeah, we missed it. It was investing, but it was really good. It was investing in diversifying the nursing workforce. So we had it here at the ANCC conference that's taking place here in New Orleans, and it was a great discussion. We actually had students from Dr. Brown's program participate on our panel to talk about how proud they are to be, a Black nurse. And it was wonderful. It was engaging. It was educational. And it was just a way to really educate as to the importance of making sure that we're diversifying the workforce, not only from a racial perspective, but also a gender perspective. So
let's stay right there for a second, Angela. So since we missed the conference, can you tell us what future initiatives does the American Nurses Foundation have planned to continue promoting diversity within the nursing workforce?
Yeah, we do have the diversity nursing research in which we, through support of the minority institutions, that's the grant that Dr. Brown's team applied for. And we have other things that we are looking at. As we go into 2025, our foundation trustees have a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we might be doing other RFPs for proposals in that area. So we look at it on a yearly basis to see where we can make an impact and not to just, go to places. We really want to land and we really want to make an impact. And that's why it was so great to see the work that Dr. Brown and her team did, because it not only brought, it was an engagement of nurses and the faculty and the students. So it was just, those are the things that we want to continue to fund, and we will look at more opportunities into 2025.
So, Dr. Brown, before we go, let's say there are some guys listening right now. How can they get in touch with you, or how can they reach out should they be interested in joining your program or learning more about the nursing field?
Yeah, I would advise them to go to our website, go to Southern University, www.sou.edu, subr.edu, and they can learn all the amazing things that we have at Southern. They can learn about our program and our learning opportunities. So that would be the first step. And they can come and take a tour at any time. We have scheduled tours for them. They can bring their families to come and see what Southern has to offer. Our doors are always open.
Well, we want to thank both of you ladies for taking time with us this morning. We were speaking to Angela Badeau, the CEO of the American Nursing Association, and Dr. Sandra C. Brown, Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University School of Nursing. We want to thank you this morning for joining us.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. Listen,
Thank
stay
you
with
so
us.
much.
Stay
Take
with
care.
us. We'll have more in-depth conversations right here on WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
All day long, yeah.
Thank you.
This new dose is, nope, that's not it. The price is nowhere to be found.
Mr. Green? Hi, it's all good. We've got this.
This is not just help from a Walgreens pharmacist.
Oh, new prescriptions. Cool. Let me check to see if these are the lowest cost options covered by your Medicare plan.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
This is someone supporting you every step of the way. Chat with a pharmacist today to find help saving. This is the human kind of help. Walgreens.
In New Orleans, every child deserves a quality education. Dr. Donaldo Batiste knows that means supporting both strong charter schools and traditional public schools.
Our kids deserve every tool available to succeed. Good charters work, but so do great traditional schools.
Dr. Batiste refuses out-of-town dark money from national charter donors. He's focused on what's best for our children, not their profits.
I'm seeking re-election to improve all our schools for every child in our city.
Vote Dr. Donaldo Batiste. Real solutions for real progress.
This message is approved by and paid for by friends to elect Dr. Donaldo R. Batiste.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Experience the heartbeat of New Orleans at the 2024 Treme Creole Gumbo Festival. Join us on November 9th and 10th as we indulge in an array of gumbo offerings crafted by local chefs, each bringing their unique touch to this classic dish. Live performances featuring the Soul Rebels, Brassaholics, Tanya Boyd Cannon, Charmaine Neville Band, and many, many more. Visit us at www.tremegumbofestival.com for more information.
Hello, Jaguar Nation. This is Chris Powers, the voice of your Southern University Jaguars. Southern hits the road this week, and we want you to be a part of the action, so don't miss the play right here on WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. Join myself and Hall of Fame coach Pete Richardson for this Saturday's game as the Jaguars battle the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Countdown to Jaguar Kickoff pregame show starts early at 1:30 p.m. and kickoff begins at 2 p.m. right here on WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK is pleased to announce the reboot of Crosstown Conversations with host Gene Nathan. A heightened focus on cultural entertainment events and the creators who present them. The new time is now Saturday at noon. Tune into the stories of our exploding creative scene with Gene Nathan on Crosstown Conversations.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back.
Good
We are
morning.
Back.
Good
Welcome
morning.
back to the Good Morning Show. Listen, I want to say this to our WBOK listening audience. We welcome your thoughts. We want you to call in. I actually enjoy engaging and getting different perspectives, but we have to keep the sugar honey iced tea at the house. We can't have it over the airwaves. If you want to season your words at home, be my guest. But when you're on the air with us, we have to make certain that we're clean with our commentary and we're thoughtful and respectful of everybody who's listening. So please call in. Please share your thoughts. But leave the sugar honey iced tea at your crib. But I want to thank our guest, Angela Badeau, the CEO of the American Nursing Association, and Dr. Sandra C. Brown, the Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University of Nursing. Listen, those women are some bad women.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are doing some amazing work trying to attract more males to the profession of nursing. God knows we need it, especially nurses of color, in light of what is happening with these women dying from a lack of abortion health care and things of that nature, and just not even being recognized when they're in pain. We were talking earlier this week about Black women experiencing medication withholding when they're dealing with sickle cell crises. And when you have nurses of color and practitioners of color who understand that sickle cell dominates us in terms of our demographic of people, they're in a better position to help navigate those waters. If you've never suffered from a disease because it's not in your culture or it's not in your family, you don't tend to believe people when they're having these extreme pains. And so the more people of color we can put in our hospitals, in our clinic, will go a long way to protecting the most marginalized and deeply harmed populations of people. So shout out to Angela and Dr. Brown over at Southern University and at the American Nursing Association for all of the work that they're doing. I want to just pivot for just a second while we have a few minutes before we talk to Morgan Walker from Bike and Vote. And it kind of ties into this idea of politics and things of that nature. When we were off air, Wesley and I were talking about the commercial that the NFL has put out trying to encourage people to vote. And there are a lot of Black athletes on there. There's a couple white athletes on there. And the tone of the commercial is saying how we go to football games no matter what the weather is like, no matter how we're feeling, no matter what's going on in our lives, we figure out a way to get to the football games. And in New Orleans, we know that's the truth. We will go see our Saints win, lose, or draw. And right now they're doing a whole lot of losing, but we're still figuring out a way to go and support the Saints no matter what the weather is like, no matter what we're experiencing, especially if you have season tickets. If you're not going, you're selling them things to somebody, so somebody's going, right? So that was the tone of the commercial. And which led us into talking about Nick Bosa.
Defensive end for the 49ers.
We're talking about Nick Bosa, and we're talking about the NFL and will they fine Nick Bosa for wearing a Make America Great Again hat during a press conference. It wasn't even his conference. It wasn't even his interview, I should say, not a press conference. They were interviewing Purdy and some other teammates. And he just came and interrupted the interview so that he can show his hat. Now, that's the same team, the same organization that benched Colin Kaepernick and then blacklisted him from sports altogether. He cannot play in the NFL because he
has not played it down since then.
Took a knee to stand against the police, the over-policing of Black bodies and all of the Black men who had died at the hands of police officers. Every time Colin Kaepernick stood in front of a microphone, they were asking him incessantly, just over and over, about why he took the knee. And he articulated himself every single time. But you allowed Nick Bosa to run into a camera of a shot that he wasn't even a part of, a conversation that wasn't his, to show his MAGA hat, and then he ran off. And the only thing that the press asked him about was, Can you tell us about why you wore the hat? And they allowed him to say what, Senator? He's not going to talk about it. I don't really want to say much about it. What do you mean you don't want to say much about it?
Doc, we know that in this country there's been an uneven playing field for years and years and years. And what's so interesting about it is that, particularly when it comes to athletes, and most of the athletes, no matter what sport you're looking at, are majority Black athletes. So if you're looking at football, if you're looking at basketball particularly, you actually see that. And I remember a few years back, and we're going to talk also about, because LeBron James on yesterday endorsed Kamala Harris to be president of the United States. But that same LeBron James, when he spoke out against many, many different issues, they then came out and said, well, just shut up and dribble. Basically saying that your opinion really does not matter.
That was a white journalist that told him.
Absolutely.
White female journalist that told him to shut up and dribble. But I want to say this before the thought leaves my mind. The law that Bosa broke is stated in Rule 5, Section 4, Article 8 of the NFL's rule book. The league will not grant permission for any club or player to wear, display, or otherwise convey messages through helmet decals, armbands, jersey patches, mouthpieces, or other items affixed to game uniforms or equipment which relate to political activities or causes, or non-football events, causes, or campaigns, or charitable causes or campaigns. So why are we questioning if the NFL is going to fine him? Why hasn't he been fined? Why hasn't he been subject to the same sort of repercussions that Colin Kaepernick did? Because if I read this correctly, he did neither of those things. He didn't break any of those rules. All he did was kneel. And the context around that is he asked a member or a retired member of the military what would be the most respectful way to protest this injustice. And it was the veteran of the military that told him that kneeling would be more appropriate. And that's what he did. And so we lose all of that context. We don't talk about it in depth. We allow the NFL to not only penalize him, but to blacklist him altogether, because we do know that the majority of the owners of the NFL are white, wealthy men. Mm-hmm. And if we allow this to happen, and not much happened, like a lot of us kind of protested, a lot of us say we weren't going to watch football, a lot of us, did little things in silent protest, but there was nothing, I believe, in terms of community from his brothers of the NFL who could have stood by his side and supported him through that. And I just think it's very telling that you have one man that kneeled against injustice and another man that came into that the interview didn't even have to do with him. So he wanted it to be on TV. It wasn't like he just wore his hat around the stadium after the game was over. He put it on and he came into the shot, showed his hat, and then left the shot. So that was very intentional. And what he meant to do is what he did, to profess his support for his candidate while he was in uniform at a nationally televised NFL
I
game.
agree.
We have a call on line one. We're going to take it before we break. Elmore, welcome to the Good Morning Show.
And you're absolutely right, young lady. He knew exactly what he was doing, and that's why I get really please forgive me being ignorant with Trump. When people use all those excuses from the beginning, well, that's Trump being Trump. He knew exactly what he's doing. He knew what he's doing. He knew from get-go the flames of what he's trying to do. So, you're all educated, but you have a lot of people who are stupid. Please forgive me. A lot of people are uneducated and stupid. They fall for all that foolishness. But when you're educated, you're not falling for the okie doke,
Absolutely. Like, listen, we appreciate all of our callers, and we appreciate your commentary as well, Elmore.
But I want to say one thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older, not saying I'm wiser no more, but I'm older, but I'm 74. I remember Malcolm. I love Malcolm to death.
Mm-hmm.
And Malcolm suggested that he was suggesting very seriously he was going for the United Nations. Oh, man, the president went berserk. They all went berserk because what Malcolm was going to do, the Arab League at the time invited Malcolm to speak about the plight of Afro-Americans in the United States, how phony. Please forgive me for saying it. I'm a Vietnam veteran, love my country, I love my people. But America is so phony, how hypocritical America was when it turns how they treated Afro-American people.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's jarring to watch and to listen to a lot of the rhetoric go unchecked. Mm-hmm. And that's the danger. When good people sit by and do nothing when injustice is happening, you're just as guilty, in my opinion, as the person creating the offense against people. So for so many people to allow him to say the things he's saying and incite the things he's inciting, and nobody's really checking it, it's scary. And I think it speaks to a deeper issue that we're going to have in this country if we allow this to kind of fester and grow and perpetuate itself. But thank you for your call, Elmore. We appreciate you here at WBOK. Listen, we have to go to break, but continue to call. The number here is 504-582-9422. We always want to hear from you. We want your insight. We want your perspective. But on the other side of the break, we're going to talk to Morgan Walker of Bike and Vote. Have more election conversation after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Wall Street closed with stocks sharply lower. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 378 points. The S&P 500 dropped by 108 points, and the Nasdaq lost 512 points. The Trump campaign is going after Mark Cuban for comments he made about women. While on The View, the billionaire and Kamala Harris campaign surrogate claimed Donald Trump is never around, quote, strong, intelligent women. The Trump campaign called the words extremely insulting to the thousands of women who work for President Trump and the women who vote for him. Americans say they're still paying too much for groceries despite a key inflation gauge showing positive signs. The Commerce Department reported that personal consumption expenditures price index dropped to 2.1% last month on an annual basis. And the new trailer for Squid Game 2 is out. The second season, set 3 years after the first, will premiere on Netflix December 26th. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 a.m.
Welcome back. We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Let me tell you how good the listening audience is. Wesley was in the middle of a thought, and I had to give the rule real quick, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to get the rule, so I kind of jumped in on his thought. But as we were on break, I leaned over to Wesley and I said, I want you to finish your thought about that when we come back on. And then somebody who was listening called in to say the exact same thing. So we appreciate our listening audience, and we thank you for being so tuned in. But listen, we want to continue our conversations around this idea of two systems, right? This Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and he paid the ultimate price for taking that knee. He took the knee in pursuit of equity for all folk, equality, justice, right? And he was castigated for it, like he was set aside for it, and
never played another down.
And now we have Bosa, who is an active NFL player with the same organization, the San Francisco 49ers, jumping into an interview that had nothing to do with him. The reporter was actually interviewing Brock Purdy at the time, and Nick Bosa crashed NBC's post-game interview with Brock Purdy to flash his Donald Trump MAGA hat. And you were in the middle of a thought where you were comparing these two systems, you know, that seems to only be present to kind of suppress or to minimize black folks. So finish that thought.
One thing I think you see around the country, and you've seen it I've seen it my entire life, and I'm sure our listening audience, and to the young lady who called in, thank you for calling in. I'll try to address the statement that I was making earlier. I've always been told, one, that you had to be twice as good to be considered to be, I mean, just as anywhere close to being level-headed. And what's so unfortunate about it is that there's always been two sets of rules for individuals in this country. And if we're talking about athletes and we're talking about entertainers and things along those lines, it's extremely unfortunate. And so being that whether or not, I mean, we're talking about kids who are in school right now. We happen to be on the campus of Xavier University right now, and I have a niece who just graduated from Xavier University and who happened to get a good opportunity to go somewhere else, and she's actually working. But one of the things that our entire family told her as she was going to school is that to make sure that she did extremely well and worked extremely hard, because no matter what she did, some people was going to look at her accomplishments as being not as good as some of her counterparts, and it's so unfortunate. And that's something that's not new here in this country. So unfortunately, when we take a look at this, we take a look at our athletes that we're talking about, and we talked a little bit about LeBron James, and when we talk about the individual, what's the Devin Bosa from the San Francisco 49ers, and part of the statement I was about to make dealt with LeBron James. And so when we take a look at those, and if you were to compare those two individuals, there is not a person or an athlete, I think in any sport, that has probably done more for his community than LeBron James. When we talk about the thousands and thousands of young people that he's put in school, the millions of people he's put and that he's sent through with scholarships and things that he's actually done. And so when he steps out and makes a statement beyond being just an athlete, then the response that he gets from lawmakers, not other lawmakers, but from other individuals is that, well, just shut up and dribble. Basically stating that your opinion really does not matter, and the only value that you have to any conversation is to what you can do on the basketball court. And that's what's so unfortunate. So I'm glad to see him step up and to see other individuals to step up to offer their thoughts on this, particularly as it relates to this particular election, because we probably have not seen an election as important in our lifetime as we're seeing right now.
So when we were also off air, I leaned to you and I asked you, we were talking about the things that aren't said, right? You hear what somebody says and you can see what they do. But even in speaking, there's a message in the words that you don't say. And so for me, what do you think was the intent? What was Bosa's intent in crashing on national TV and crashing a press conference or an interview with one of his teammates to show his MAGA hat, especially when he knew he was breaking the NFL's rule on uniforms?
He didn't want to miss that opportunity. You're talking about being watched by millions and millions of viewers, not just in this country, but around the entire world. And so to have and what's so interesting about it, there was an interview with three individuals who had played so well in that particular game, they were going to be highlighted in this. He hadn't done anything in the game to highlight his activity and what he had done.
Clearly, because they weren't interviewing him.
Mm-hmm. But to have those three individuals that are actually there, and what's so interesting about it, I would suggest that if you talk to those three individuals don't support Trump.
No, they're not going to talk to those three individuals because I can guarantee you if they try, they've already been told what to say. Because they're not going to further push him under a proverbial bus, right? So I don't think that the ownership of the San Francisco 49ers is going to allow them to kind of separate themselves in a way that makes it seem as though they don't support their teammate. Because if it was going to happen, it would have happened already. This is not something that happened yesterday. But in addition to Rule 5, Section 4, Article 8 that he broke, it also says the NFL's general policy on uniforms state that visible items worn on the game day by players must be issued by the club or the league. If not, then they must have approval in advance by the league office. So do you think he had permission to wear his MAGA hat onto the field? I mean, because he did it with such confidence. Not only did he put it on, he went into the frame of the camera and he pointed at it, and then he walked away. And every single one of the players that they were interviewing, I don't know if it was a nervous response or a subconscious response, but they all laughed and kind of like, brushed it off like it wasn't a big deal.
Doc, it's like you can't unring a bell.
Right.
And so you got a situation whereby if there's something that you want to do and you're probably not going to be able to get permission to do it, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Well, so why are we still waiting, Senator, on the punishment? If he clearly broke the rules and if the rules apply evenly to all, they're not subjective, then why are we still waiting for
the
a
punishment?
penalty?
Should have always come out. The NFL is quick at sending out letters on Monday morning when you do something on a Saturday. There is no situation whereby they hold off on that. So I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe this conversation starts a conversation not just here but elsewhere to put pressure on the NFL and those NFL owners to make sure that they're clear across the board, to make sure that they live by what they're saying, they practice what they preach.
So this is going to segue me to this point. There's been some talk around, and I'm a part of the talk because I reached out to Coach Bryce Brown myself personally to talk to him about this idea of our athletes celebrating with gestures that look like they're showing guns or flashing guns or things of that nature. And I reached out to him because I didn't want anybody in a car uniform to be doing that. So I knew he probably was already on top of it, but I wanted to let him know that there was a conversation happening nationally around this because it wasn't just high school students. It wasn't just college students, but NFL players were also starting to do these gestures that would look like they were mimicking handguns or mimicking shooting or showing handguns, right? And the NFL was very quick.
Absolutely.
To respond to that.
Very
quick.
Game on Sunday.
So I want to understand if you are making it synonymous with the lifting of a shirt as to say you must be showing a weapon. So we have to do something about this. Or you're doing your hands in such a way that it looks like it can be a weapon, and you jumped on it instantly. And we were just talking about the rhetoric that is coming from the MAGA camp in terms of wanting to kill a sitting member of this government, the daughter of a former vice president. You have said out of your mouth that she should be put before a firing squad. To me, that is synonymous with violence and guns.
Without question.
So how is it that you can jump on that very quickly, these celebration gestures, but you allowed him to walk into that camera and show his MAGA hat, knowing what MAGA, the rhetoric that they're spewing right now. And the fact that you already have rules against these things. Why are we waiting for a penalty? Why are we waiting to get to see what the NFL is going to say or do?
Well, Doc, I think it's similar to what you've seen. I mean, for instance, you have this entire election, not just within the last week, the entire election that's been going on, people are making excuse after excuse after excuse of different things that have been said, not just by President Trump, by those surrogates and those individuals around him. We talked about the rally at Madison Square Garden a couple of days ago, and much of the violence and much of things that were actually being said, whether or not it was conversations about watermelon, conversations about Puerto Rico, conversations about pimp handlers, things along those lines.
A pimp handler.
And just things that have no place whatsoever in a presidential election. And as a black man, it really upsets me when you have those kind of statements being focused towards a black woman who is absolutely and probably one of the most, if not the most qualified individuals to ever run for president of the United States, and to see it repeated over and over again, she's ignorant. She's a person of low IQ. How in the hell do you have a degree from Howard University, a law degree? You have been a district attorney, you have been a U.S. senator, and a vice president of the United States, and now someone is questioning your IQ?
Not just someone, a 34-time convicted felon.
Hey.
Let's be very, very clear here. Like, I don't even think you shouldn't even speak on me, sir. Like, that's how I'm thinking about it. It's
keep my name out your mouth.
What Will Smith said, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. That's what. It's just. It's baffling to me that he could question anyone's intellect or anyone's preparation for a job. I liken his demeaning words towards the intellect of the current vice president to the rhetoric that we were hearing when Ketanji Brown was being going through her process for the Supreme Court. They were questioning everything, including her academic track record, when she is probably, listen, from the last 3 justices that have been set, she's
easily more qualified.
Batting them completely out the park. Because the young lady that they took right from Metairie, right here in this state, hadn't even tried a case. And she's now sitting on the highest court in the land, a position that she's probably going to die in, right?
Correct.
So how is it that you could question the qualifications of a woman, a black woman, when she has a resume that will wrap corners around some of the people who have been appointed?
Doc, you made the point yourself already. We talk about being half as good. We understand that those are the conversations we have in our households as we're growing up.
Right.
We know what's happening, so and no matter where you go, no matter who you talk to, no matter where you end up going to school, you understand what you have to do to try to make it where many of your classmates have a situation whereby it's a whole lot easier and you don't necessarily have to be nearly as qualified to make it to where you're trying to get to.
Listen, if you want to talk to us on this topic, the number here is 504-582-9422. We have a caller on line 1. Good morning, Piper. Welcome to the Good Morning
Good
Show.
morning.
Hey, good morning, good people. How are you guys doing today? And I guess my main thing is you think about with President Obama, go back to President Obama. You wanted his birth certificates, his college transcripts. You want to question everything about this guy. But then on the other side, you just take it at face value. If you say it, it's good, and we can move forward. So there's no questioning. But moving back to the Bosa issue, I think NFL players historically have been a little timid. If you look at how they respond to things compared to the NBA and the WNBA, they really a little silent on things. So I think if NFL players are more vocal about some of this stuff and question the league on why hasn't Bosa been punished? You know, because I mean, like Senator Bishop said, punishments come out on Monday morning. Everybody knows that those fines and penalties will be on Monday morning. So I don't get it. I don't understand why it's taking so long. But I think if players start saying some things, you know, especially if I'm a player, if I've been fined for something, then I want everybody to be fined. You know, if I did wrong and you did wrong, hey, we all get our penalties and take them like men. And I think that's where I stand with it.
Well, thank you for your insight, Piper. We appreciate your call this morning. What do you say, Senator, about his commentary?
I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. And and something I thought about earlier when we were talking about it, and I'd love to hear the listening on us kind of chap in on that. And you mentioned how individuals you believe in the NFL are a little bit more quiet and less to speak on things than some other folks. I think sometimes when it comes to that, people feel as if they're making financial decisions. And let me talk about that. When we talk about the NFL, we talk about baseball, we talk about basketball, male or female, those are individuals who are highly compensated for what they do on a regular basis. And so you have a situation whereby many of them may feel as if, one, what they're able to say when it goes to the conversations outside of the particular sport, they're limited in saying that. But individuals like LeBron James, who folks can suggest that, who are beyond the average individual, who has the financial wherewithal that if he doesn't make another dollar for the rest of his life, is financially set. So he has the flexibility to say what he wants to about different things. When we take a look at the history of the of sports, whether or not it was Jim Brown, whether or not it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whether or not it was Muhammad Ali, many of those individuals paid a dear price for speaking out the way that they did, probably nobody more so than Muhammad Ali. So I don't know, I'm not an athlete, but I don't know exactly what their thoughts are as it relates to it. Many of these individuals, when they talk amongst themselves and talk amongst their friends, realize that there is an unlevel playing field when it comes to sports and their ability to actually saying things. But whether or not they will come out, and as you mentioned a few minutes ago, and have the wherewithal to say the things that need to be said because it's affecting not just their community, but folks who they grew up with who have not reached the type of success that they have. So your thoughts are?
Well, to the caller's point, and I hear what you're saying. I think the larger ideal here is a collective saying of the thing that needs to be said. Because if you say it as a collective, this is why unions are important. This is why people making certain that it's not just a one-person issue. If it's our issue, as in all black men in the NFL, all black men in the NBA, if it becomes a collective issue, the powers that be will have to bend to the will of the people, because without them, you don't have an NBA, you don't have an NFL. And my problem with allowing what happened to Kaepernick to happen and only a very few people said something is the reason why they were able to do him what they did him, because only a very few people said something about it in terms of the people who are in decision-making positions, like our high-power athletes who they cannot have, the face of the NFL, the face of the NBA. You cannot say that the NBA or the NFL could be what the NFL and the NBA is without black athletes. So to me, certain things have to be said, but I think the thing is, it has to be a collective saying of the thing. I don't
disagree with you. When I look back at the situation I just talked about with Muhammad Ali and those individuals, even back then, you didn't have, I guess, a collective group of folks who spoke out. But the fact that you had a handful of folks who were the faces of the franchises, it meant a whole lot. And when they actually said it, you had to listen.
I got your point.
Okay.
We have a caller on line one. Don, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. And not disagreeing with the good brother. Muhammad Ali I don't think Muhammad Ali finished high school. He may have finished high school. And LeBron James went from high school directly to the NBA as the number 1 overall pick.
Correct.
And what am I talking about? I'm talking about people like a Spencer Haywood, who we should recognize, who fought against the system of hardship. That's why you had the hardship cases where NBA players and even Kurt Flood with baseball fought that for those issues to allow these players to make the salary and plead a hardship case. College football and the NFL, you may declare after your junior year. So what I'm saying is, what I'm promoting to you is that the NFL produces more millionaires, black male millionaires on paper. But the issue with the professional sports is not an issue of a Bosa. The issue I have with these brothers is after the checks stop rolling in, they 5 years after they leave the profession of any sport, but in particular football, they are in financial distress. And you're talking about brothers in their 30s and 40s. So the issue for me is the long-term financial health of these brothers will lend itself to their mental and political health, and that they're using the ball and not letting the ball use them. And we have to support them. We as a community can stand up against a Bosa and and educate, make sure these brothers are being educated and are obtaining their college degrees, not false degrees. But we have to look at the bigger picture of these brothers, what they're dealing with, just to stay viable professionally through injuries, through discrimination, through hypocritical policies. And these brothers dealing with a lot more than we see on the facial issue. We just see the big contract, and we think that they're millionaires and they can support and buy mama house and all that. But we have to, as a community, help these brothers realize their potential as leaders far removed from their playing days. And I think not to discount what Bosa did and the policy, but just to encourage these brothers that they can build a legacy of philanthropy and financial wherewithal that will help them in the long run deal with a lot of issues on the real side of life, to where they can be a contributor long after their playing days, and because they're part of a bigger network of, i.e., college football and professional football.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your commentary. Listen, what do you say to that? Like before we go to break.
Sure. Now you made a fantastic point. My reading tells me that the average lifespan of an NFL player is only 5 years, which means that those individuals, once they leave the NFL field, they have a situation whereby they need to have a career whereby they can sustain themselves, because oftentimes those monies that they made during the year is not available. Don, it seems like we're going to talk about this a little bit more, and I'll touch on it a little bit more after this break.
Listen, and my thought is, if it's a rule, if it's a policy, then it's a rule and a policy for everybody. But listen, on the other side of the break, we are going to talk to Morgan Walker from Bike Info, and we'll continue to talk all things election 2024. Stay with us. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Your Power is On gospel music show is coming on at a new time. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to
all day long.
This is Jean Nathan from Crosstown Conversations. I'm also the executive director of the Creative Alliance of New Orleans. Let's talk about voting today, because it's unfortunate that we have to fight for our right to vote in 2024. after all the fight we have gone through to gain and retain the right to vote already. But that's the reality, and why it is so important for us to show our commitment to the American democracy by getting out to vote. More than that, work with your friends, family, neighbors, and associates to make sure they all get out to vote. If we can demonstrate our growth in numbers of votes, we can change the trends and promote a healthier dialogue about social justice, environmental, education, and housing issues. That is why your vote counts.
For everything you need to know, go to govote.com. That's GEAUX vote.com.
NOLA Public Schools is excited to be on this 2024-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars. Attend today, achieve tomorrow.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fits-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Are you ready to make a difference in your community? Join me, Randy Chambliss, and my co-hosts Dion Dana and Barry Mallory on Helping the Village Radio Show, where we raise awareness, advocate for real solutions, and coordinate supportive services to prevent and reduce homelessness. We're connecting the dots to build stronger, thriving communities. Tune in every first and third Saturday at 2 p.m. as we collaborate with local leaders, real estate investors, and nonprofits, working together to provide hope and opportunity for those in need. Helping the Village Radio Show, empowering change one community at a time.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. My co-host this morning is none other than
Wesley Bishop. Good morning.
And actually, our GM is holding us down behind the glass. Naira stepped away, but it's good to have both of them holding us down behind the glass. But we were having some real in-depth conversations about, is there a double standard in the league in terms of holding true to what their core values are or what they are saying is policy. If it's a policy, if it's a rule, then if someone breaks that rule, do we penalize them per the rule, or do we give them a pass because of our agreeance with their political demonstration? Because that's what it comes across as. You don't see it as stepping out of line, because to me, you're silently in agreement with the hat. We were talking off air. I saw a number of times where Tom Brady was being interviewed in the locker room, and I saw a Trump hat behind his head, prominently displayed in his locker. You know, so you didn't happenstance pick that place to interview him. You interviewed him there so that the hat can be displayed, in my opinion, because you and I know when you're dealing with the media and they want the shot, they're going to organize it the way that they want it. But if the subject of that interview wants to sit where he's sitting, then that's where they're going to shoot it. And I believe he sat there so that his political affiliation or his political support is on display as well. And I've never heard of Tom Brady being penalized for that demonstration, but we penalized Colin Kaepernick almost with a death penalty in terms of his career, and nothing for Nick Bosa as of today. We're still waiting to see if he's going to be penalized. So there's clearly a double standard in the NFL.
Well, I think you made mention of something during the break. I think that made a lot of sense. We talked about, I think, the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, who actually kind of chimed in about this particular piece. And basically he said was that, look, if there's a rule that we have, that rule needs to apply across the board to all players. There need to be any subjectivity as to whether or not we can.
What he said, Senator, that wasn't his statement. That's the person who wrote the article. They quoted him as saying, we can't have Trump weaponizing our league.
Correct.
Is what he was quoted as saying. But the additional commentary came from The Atlantic, the person who wrote the article for The Atlantic. So even with him saying that, that's a powerful statement to say we can't have Trump weaponizing our league. Like, if politics are supposed to be separate and apart from the NFL, then it needs to be separate and apart from the NFL. But then you do this commercial, right, encouraging people to vote. And we were talking about the things that you don't hear in the commercial, right?
Correct.
I like the commercial, but I'm always listening for what is unsaid. So are we going to be political and bipartisan, or are we not going to be political at all? Right? Because there's a way to be political and just don't pick a side. Like, you can encourage people to vote and you don't have to tell them who to vote for.
And that's what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, but when you allow one of your players to come on a field in uniform representing your league and with a MAGA hat on, then that says a clear message.
Correct.
Right? And Kaepernick kneeling wasn't even political in a sense that it was Democrat versus Republican versus Independent versus Green Party. It was simply to protest the killing of unarmed black men at the hands of police officers. And that was happening at a rate that was alarming at the time.
And it's still happening.
Absolutely. And it was black man after black man after black man. And so he finally took the advice of a Green Beret that says, if you want to protest this injustice, kneeling would be the best way to do that. And in that kneel, he took away his entire career. So if the question is, does the NFL have a double standard? My answer based on just this story would be yes. It's very clear that there's a double standard there. So we just have to be honest about conversations. We have to be honest about confronting injustice when we see it, even if it's something as small as somebody walking onto a field wearing a hat that is politically driven. It might seem small to people, but it's large in the grand scheme of things in terms of what the NFL is accepting of and not accepting of.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So listen, we have been talking all things election 2024. We are what? 5 days out from Election Day, November 5th. If you have not early voted, we are imploring you to get out on November 5th to vote. We were talking about the dangerous rhetoric that we're hearing, specifically in terms of the killing of the daughter of a former vice president, a current member of our government. He said that she should be put in front of firing squad and fired up on because she's a war hawk, right? Well, that kind of rhetoric is dangerous. And so with us in studio right now is Morgan Walker of Bike and Vote. She's done some tremendous work in terms of making certain that we not only talk about voting, but that we do something to get people to the polls to vote. So welcome to WBOK, Morgan.
Thank you guys for having me. How y'all doing? Good morning. Good morning.
We're glad to have you. So we were having this conversation that you walked in on about is there a double standard in the NFL in terms of political views? On the one hand, we had Colin Kaepernick, who took the knee to protest the injustice that was happening against black men in terms of police brutality and police killings. And then on the other hand, we just had Nick Bosa from the same organization, the San Francisco 49ers, who ran out onto the field and interrupted an interview with the MAGA hat on. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. He just ran into the camera view, pointed to his hat, and he ran off. And so as we sit here today, he has not been fined. There has not been any statement by the NFL made, and even the
no
media,
consequences.
Even the media tried to ask him about it, and they allowed him to just say, I don't want to talk about that right now. He didn't have the MAGA hat on during his press conference. He switched hats, so he had the presence of mind, Senator, to take the hat off before the press conference. And so we were talking about, is there a double standard in the NFL in terms of political views? And so it just kind of segues us into the importance of making certain that people understand it's vital that we vote. It's vital that we get people to the polls. So how did Bike and Vote even come to be? Where did it come from? Why Bike and Vote?
And just to answer your first question too, of course there's a double standard. I think we always have those conversations when we're thinking about different influences and people that we try to pull in to try to expose Bike and Vote to different audiences and stuff. And a lot of my friends who do play in the NFL and NBA, that's something for them to always think about. They're like, we're just telling people to vote. Is they just kind of want to take that. Just kind of stay in that middle ground, so to make sure, everything is fine with the contracts and everything they have going on. So I definitely know it's a double standard.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. We talked a little bit more about it being financial decisions, and so when you talk to your friend, they definitely have their own personal thoughts and that they have amongst their friends, and you can probably guess where many of the individuals come from because they tend to have similar backgrounds to folks. But however, in making a decision to be outspoken, oftentimes they don't want that to have something to do with their financial decisions and their contracts, and because oftentimes what their point of view is might be very different than a point of view
from their organizations,
general managers, organization. I agree with you.
And it's okay to have a different point of view, but when you're representing an organization, at the time that he ran on the field, he wasn't in streetwear. He was in his NFL issued uniform. It was still a televised after. The interview was after the game, so they still were live on TV, still representing the organization, still representing the NFL, and he was allowed to go onto the field with that hat on, because I'm certain several people saw him before he made it into the middle of the field where the interview was happening, and it was allowed. So we were talking about the things that we hear them say, but also the things that go unspoken. And so to have that happen unchecked sends the message to us that there's clearly a double standard when it comes to political affiliation and political acceptance.
And do you guys look at like the MAGA hat as like a symbol for others, like the fist? Like, do y'all kind of, is that like
I look at
equally?
the MAGA hat as a political, it's a political article of clothing. That's no different.
Paraphernalia.
That's no different, because in the way you answer that question is, if you go to the polling place with that hat on, like a white guy tried to do. He tried to go into a polling place with that hat on. Yeah. It was a predominantly black place where the workers were predominantly black, black women. And the lady simply told him, sir, you can vote, but you cannot do it with that hat on. So you're going to have to step out and, remove the hat, and then you can come back. And he went completely, but he attacked those women.
Oh, I did see that.
So that answers your
that.
question. If it was not seen as a political article of clothing or a political statement, he would have been allowed to go in with it on. You cannot go into a polling place, even if the hat say Harris Waltz, they would not let you in there to vote. So yes. But if you go into a polling place with your fist in the air, that doesn't say anything about your political affiliation. What it says is it's an act of freedom. It's an act of understanding that there's power in your vote. Because at one point, black folk couldn't vote.
Let me give you a
At one point, black folk had to pay a poll tax to vote. So that's the difference between the fist and the hat.
Realistic situation. I've been a candidate several different times, and I've actually had on my shirts, not somebody else's, vote Wesley Bishop.
Right.
And I'll go in, and before I walk in that door, I got to take that shirt off in order to go and vote. So there's nothing strange that they were doing. That's across the board, no matter where you go and vote.
But he knew that, Senator. He knew that.
And so to make that an issue, he wants to see if he can get away with it and then make it an issue.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. But
Bike
and vote.
So that brings us to the importance of, and I think that's good information for you too, because if you're biking people to the polls, you need to also make certain that nothing hinders them from going into there to vote.
And definitely, and that's like the culture of Bike and Vote. We try to, just tell people to have fun with it. Even if you are on the campaign trail, you're running for something, maybe come in your HBCU swag or a school that you went to. We try to just kind of not really try to dictate what people are voting for. We just try to inform them with what's on the ballot, and then also, also mobilize them. That's really our main missions. We don't try to tell people who to vote for at all. So just to kind of give everyone a little background about Bike and Vote, my background is really events and nightlife. And I've been doing that for the past 15 years, really since high school. It's just something that I was always passionate about, and I turned it into a career. I was able to, do it on another level. And during COVID, all things were shut down as far as gathering. So that just completely shut down my whole business. It was nothing I can really do during COVID. So one of the things I was doing was biking, and I built a community from biking around the city because a lot of the streets were closed. So we were kind of downtown just exploring the city and the art and different things like that. So I was seeing we were biking safely. So I was like, well, maybe I can come up with some type of biking event to get just to kind of, I miss just being around community, being around people. So me biking out and just waving at people, that gave me like joy throughout the day and gave me something to like wake up and do every day. So I was like, well, let me come up with an event that, I can kind of get the community together safely. And then over time, I was asked to work on a campaign to get the word out via my socials because everybody was on their phone during the time and elections were still happening. And I was like, of course, because I know I'm still voting. So I would love to encourage my friends and my peers to, hey, I know this is going on. We dealing with this, but we still have to try to get out and vote. We have, important elections coming up. So just being afforded that opportunity, then I kind of put the two ideas together where I was like, okay, it's one thing for people to say, oh, I'm going to go vote. I'm going to vote. That you kind of just send them a text and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll go vote. But somehow it'll always slip their mind. So I'm like, how can I figure out a way that we can hold each other accountable? Where you telling me you're going to go vote? Well, meet me here at 2:00 and we'll do it together. Just like the same thing since 2020, I always had the same stance where, listen, this is what's on the ballot. You make your, informed decision, and we're going to go in there together and support each other and come out and we voted, and it takes 5 minutes. So that's kind of how Bike and Vote came about, just my ideas coming into fruition as one. And when I did the first Bike and Vote, and it was such a huge success, and the feedback, I think people telling me like they haven't voted since Obama, and these people that I talk to daily. Okay. And I'm like, wait, you wasn't going to vote? I'm automatically thinking it because, my family, my mom and my dad, they, always say, make sure you go vote, make sure you go vote. So I just automatically assume maybe that's how other people are. But no, you would never know, like people you sitting next to, like haven't voted like in a long time. So it's like, just seeing that kind of motivated me to say, hey, well, let me do this again to, kind of keep getting the word out. So that's kind of how Bike and Vote started. Well, that is how Bike and Vote started. And then I just kept getting it more organized. I kept putting more structure into the event. And now, I was able to hire other organizers to work across the state of Louisiana. So we're not only in New Orleans now, we're in Baton Rouge,
phenomenal. Shreveport,
Louisiana, Chalmette, Louisiana, and Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Talk to me about this here. I'm interested when you make those conversations. Can you describe some of the activities or events that Bike and Vote organizes to invoke voter and civic participation?
Yeah, so we started with the bike ride, which is our mobilization piece, where we just specifically focused on mobilizing. So we gave everybody free bikes, and you come bike with us, and we bike together to the polls. We realized then that, people needed the voter information. So that's when we started, was like, hey, well, let's try to do like some type of segment or something like that prior to the bike ride to kind of introduce people to, questions that they may have that they were asking me. And I'm like, well, I may not have this information, but this person may have this information. So we started an event series called Politics at Politics, where we put 4 community members, and we will also have 4 either elected officials or well-known leaders in the community come sit with each other and have that open dialogue and those questions that everybody had. And we'll start doing those maybe a month before the bike rides. So that was another thing that we implemented. So we was like, okay, let's try to educate our riders before they come out. And then also we started reaching out to other partners who were already doing the work around town, educating voters and stuff like that, to provide us with the resources to be able to give our bikers. So that's kind of where we at. We're still in the beginning stages. I've only been doing this for about 3 years. I always try to tell people, my background isn't particularly, politics or, voter education or anything like that. But I know I'm a person that can gather people. And when you have a strength like that, I try to collab with, different organizations that can help us bring the community more resources.
So I heard you say earlier that some of your friends that hadn't voted since Obama. And we have been trying to, here at WBOK, understand why there's this falling out of with their civic responsibility. What are some of the reasons your friends or people you have engaged, what are some of the reasons they're giving you for why they feel like voting is not really giving them the outcomes that they want, in terms of why did they stop voting since Obama? Because I know there was a lot of hype around Obama. Everybody was excited. Right. First black president, that, everybody was engaged. What do you think has happened since Obama to now that makes people feel like, why vote?
I think in Louisiana in particular, they aren't being engaged. They aren't being, targeted not targeted, because I guess, you don't have to be targeted to be civically responsible, but I just think they aren't being engaged. So, that's one. They don't kind of know what's going on because the communication isn't there. And then another thing is the sense of hope I've seen, it's kind of like they aren't really excited about, candidates that they've seen since Obama. Maybe that's something that, I definitely heard, where it's I don't like it to be personable, but it is at the same time, because I feel like they just, like I said, they haven't had anybody that they've been excited about to get out and vote. And then I think it's just day-to-day responsibility. Most of us are doing 3, 4, working 2, 3 jobs. I really don't know anyone who's doing just one thing. You have kids, you have cousins, you have your grandma, you have so much going on day to day, and it's I think it just gets away from them most of the time, and that information is not being pushed on them as much as other information.
So what barriers to voting do you think exist in New Orleans, and how does Bike and Vote address those challenges?
I think just literally what I just said, just staying creative and actually engaging young people, inviting them to spaces that maybe they normally feel like they aren't welcomed in, or they can't be themselves in. I think that's another thing too, because just trying to bridge that gap from a mindset of, that doesn't have anything to do with me, or, I don't go to those type of places or do those type of things. Just giving them the confidence and encouraging them to know you belong in these spaces. This is your space. They work for you. These people are, trying to help you better your community and your life. So I think just kind of sending that message and making sure, they're a part of the conversation. I think that's really what Bike and Vote is standing for. Just giving young people the confidence and the encouragement to know that they can be at these tables and they have a seat at the table and that they belong in these conversations.
Morgan, what have you seen? You guys do phenomenal work, but what have you seen as far as success stories, dealing with young people, trying to get young people out to tell them the importance of voting? What kind of success have you seen in making individuals be more responsible and realizing that their vote really does matter?
Just from social media, seeing the engagement of starting from me just, seeming like I was by myself, encouraging my peers, to now seeing them on their socials, excited with their early voting stickers. And I'm not talking about just for this election. I'm talking about, last year and the year before that, just seeing that impact from, explaining to them and putting them in those conversations where they were able to learn and meet new people and have those different type of relationships, to now where they're encouraging their followers and they're now, volunteering and doing different things in the community. So I think just seeing that is the impact in itself. And just seeing, like, even this year, just the turnout in the other organizations that want to come on board, who are, known as more of we're on the entertainment side of New Orleans.
But that's the point I was going to make to you. That's why I think what you're doing is so dynamic, as with any other organization that has a social component to it, because that's where the people are going to be. So I think just making certain that we put the information where the people are, as opposed to expecting the people to come to the information. If you're going to have this second line, and you're going to bring thousands and thousands of people, there should be some sort of civic component to that, so that people who otherwise would not have access to this information, they can get it from their social aid and pleasure club. They can get it from their Black Mexican Indian tribe. They can get it from organizations such as Bike and Vote, because that's where the people are. So wherever the people are, I think this idea of bringing the information to the people as opposed to waiting for the people to come to the information is vital. And I also want to put out there that the New Orleans United Front also does these monthly meetings. If you guys can partner, you can bike people to those meetings. A lot of political information, a lot of just regular everyday information that helps your quality of living is happening in those meetings. And I think the hang up is a lot of folk just either don't know that it's happening, or they don't have the way to get to the information. So if the beauty about Bike and Vote is you bike to the information. You can create this opportunity. So if you know that the NOUF is having this meeting, you can congregate people and get on your bikes and drive over there to Cafe Istanbul on your bike and take advantage of all this invaluable information. The last conversation we had was a conversation with Sheriff Susan Hudson, and it was wonderful information, but there just weren't enough people in the room to carry that information
no
out
channels
to the broader community. So I think partnering with those types of organizations, and it will literally be more impactful in terms of what you're doing, because you're bringing the people to the information as opposed to hoping that the information gets to the people somehow. So thank you for what you're doing. We actually have a caller that wants to talk to you about Bike and Vote. Good morning, Vincent. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with the founder of Bike and Vote, Morgan Walker.
Hey.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Listen, it's funny you mentioned getting with other organizations. I always felt that Mayor Cantrell had a close tie with, the youth, in a sense, with how she would be at different events and how would we react and respond to the mayor. Have you ever thought about collaborating with the mayor or getting in touch with her? Because she's still in office, and, despite everything surrounding, I know she still is influential and probably could stimulate young voters.
Thank you, Vincent, for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so, we're the city council and along with the mayor did support our last Bike and Vote, and we seen it in the numbers. When people with those type of platforms come and, just even post Bike and Vote, you can see a difference in the turnout. So we shout out to the mayor for supporting Bike and Vote. And that's kind of, this year what we've really been working on, just kind of making sure Bike and Vote was a machine that was working, with or without me. And now that it is, next year, I think, me and my team, we really do want to focus on partnership, because we do understand our turnout and our impact. So we do want to collaborate more with people who are already doing the work. So we, like you said, we want to bring the people to the information.
So in our last 30 seconds with you, we're going to ask you this last question, so you can give us your parting thoughts before you leave us.
What message would you like to share with the community about the importance of voting, especially for those who may be disengaged or skeptical about the political process?
My message to people about voting is that it is the most proactive step we can take for change. And I think that how you have to look at voting is that, you may not see the impact of it right then and there, but when you look back 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you know, you can say that you actually made a difference because you went and you cast your vote and you used your voice. So I just want to continue to encourage my peers, and, you know, and it's okay if you haven't been voting. Don't feel like you're shunned out or you missed out on anything. Let's do it. Let's get you registered. Let's get you to the polls. It's never too late to learn about what's going on in your community and use your voice and your platform. So that I just want to continue to encourage my people to get out there and vote, and don't listen to, you know, the false narratives and the information that's going around. You know, like, we have to vote. We have to vote.
Absolutely. We have been in conversation with the founder of Bike and Vote, Morgan Walker. We also want to thank our guest, Angela Badeau, the CEO of the American Nursing Association, and Dr. Sandra C. Brown, Dean and Professor of the College of Nursing and Allied Health at Southern University School of Nursing. It is imperative, people, that you lift your voice and vote. We are 5 days away from Election Day.
Yes.
Election Day is November 5th. Take somebody to the polls with you. Please get out and vote. I also want to invite you to the Front Porch, which is up next with Greater Than Kimba. This has been a dynamic show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and my co-host in studio this morning,
Senator Wesley Bishop.
Thank you for listening. Stay with us to the Front Porch. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Go vote.